Hey, how's it going everybody, and welcome back. So today I wanted to discuss Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher and my biggest concern for the game. Now, before you take out your pitchforks, it's not actually the game's quality or whether or not I think it'll be fun that I'm concerned about. This actually connects to the wider Monster Rancher franchise and even the monster taming genre as a whole. So if you didn't already know, there is a new Monster Rancher game coming out this Thursday, October 20th, that acts as a cross between the iconic Monster Rancher franchise and the Ultraman series, which is much more prominent in the East, but still has a niche following here. The basic idea from the game is that you can raise and battle with these large kaiju beasts in a classic Monster Rancher setting. It's kind of like what Hyrule Warriors is to Dynasty Warriors, but instead of being a game based off of another game, it's a game based off of the Ultraman series. Basically, Monster Rancher with an Ultra Kaiju skin and some specific features for this particular game. Now, for a bit of context, the Monster Rancher franchise actually exited the West and overall has been pretty dormant since the DS era after having a pretty decent success with its first few games totaling 4 million sales by 2007. Now, sales for Monster Rancher games did eventually start to fizzle out, and thus they exited because they deemed localization not worth it based on the payout. This is unfortunately something that I've talked about a lot, but is a reality for many Japanese game developers. Look no further than Yokai Watch 4 to see how, despite a cult following, some of these games just don't make it to the West, or at least aren't seen as a priority for localization. Now, contextually, Yokai Watch's situation is different from Monster Rancher because while Monster Rancher existed in the West for over a decade before coming back, the Yokai Watch situation is pretty recent, and given the surge in popularity of monster taming games in the 2020s, I honestly think Yokai Watch is missing a massive opportunity by not focusing on a Western release, whereas back then, I understand why Monster Rancher did what they did. Anyways, tangent aside, last year, Monster Rancher finally confirmed a game coming to the West dubbed Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX, which, to be honest, the term new game is a little bit generous considering it's basically a remaster of the original 2, but you get my gist. For better or for worse, it was essentially a direct port with some add-ons, but as a result also kept with it many of the issues that existed in the originals, and it was actually converted to work on mobile, which was then converted to Switch and Steam, which does cause a little bit of suffering. For example, the Steam version doesn't have button maps or controller play and stuff like that. The game honestly had very little marketing in the West, and I remember this because I'll typically use gameplay trailers and stuff like that for footage for a lot of my videos, but there was quite the scarcity in this case. Anyway, sales numbers were never publicized, which has led many to believe that the game didn't sell all too well, since if it did, they'd likely want to boast these numbers for the sake of their current and future investors. A lot of people did enjoy the callback to the original games, but many have also criticized it for being a, and I quote, low effort port, but I'll let you guys decide where you stand on that spectrum. Okay, so how does any of this connect to Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher and my earlier mentions regarding the current state of the Japanese monster taming games? My concern is essentially an amalgamation of everything I've mentioned thus far. When it comes to Japanese games coming to the West in the monster taming genre, it's been extremely rocky. Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX did not have a lot of marketing in the West, and many other Japanese monster taming games that come here do the same thing. Specifically with Monster Rancher, every time I mention this new Monster Rancher game, I always see at least one comment of someone saying, oh wow, there's a new Monster Rancher game coming this year? Furthermore, Ultraman isn't exactly the most recognizable franchise in the West. In fact, it's very niche. I said this in another video, but a lot of people don't even know what the word kaiju means, so Ultra Kaiju will mean very little to many people. Basically, I'm really worried that if Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX didn't sell that well, and then this game also doesn't sell well, which is a brand new Monster Rancher game, they might just give up on the West and deem it unfeasible. I could very easily see them chalking up DX not selling well as a byproduct of it being a very minimalistic port, but they may see a new game not sell well and deem it unviable. To be quite frank, I'm not 100% sure what the viability of Monster Rancher is if they do heavily market it in the West, but I definitely think some sort of brand new mainline non-crossover game would have been more successful here. Like if they just straight up said, hey, Monster Rancher 5 is coming, I feel like a lot more people would be talking about it and be on board with it, but Ultra Kaiju could just be a little too niche for a widespread audience. Personally, I really do hope the game sells well because I want Japanese developers to put more money into getting their games here and actually marketing them, and I think Monster Rancher could really find a successful niche in the West if they push harder on that front and actually care about appealing to a Western audience. Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher has also had very minimalistic advertising here, and it's kind of a catch-22 because they don't want to put a lot of money into marketing because they don't see the game selling well, and then the game doesn't sell well because they didn't put marketing, and it's just a big loop. But these are just one man's thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Are you excited for the new Monster Rancher game? Did you even know it existed? And what are your hopes for the future of the series? If you are interested in the game, definitely subscribe to my channel because I am going to be putting out guides and breakdowns post-launch, and I'll even be streaming it with my buddy Hipster Snack on launch day. Also, if you're a fan of Monster Taming Games, this is definitely the place to be since I put out new videos every single day, usually twice. And if you want to follow my other socials, I got Twitter, Discord, Patreon, etc. Special thanks to my patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, and Exodus, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.